Okay, let's start. Hey guys, today we have another episode and it's all about Pomelo. And to have this discussion with me, I have Kaviraj, who is a childhood friend and is also somebody who is working in Pomelo as a data scientist. Hello, Kaviraj, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Aman. Very, very nice to talk to you after so long. Like we basically grew up together, and like it's really nice to talk to you here on your podcast.
Yeah, so me being in this industry, when I came to know that you are working in Pomelo, which is this is what we are going to talk about today. So I was like, this definitely calls for an episode. So very happy to
Yeah,
have you today.
yeah, same with me as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's get started. So Pomelo is what I've researched is called a DNVB brand, which stands for Digital Native Vertical Brand. So what DNVB means is it's a brand that grew up on the internet. So some people might confuse it with DNVB being like a brand that's grown up on the internet, like selling wholesale and retail via the Instagram or selling it on other online platforms like Amazon. So that's not DNVB. DNVB is a brand, it's a concept that you grew up on the internet. You everything you do, you have your own setup, and that's how you run. You control everything. So there are four factors what I have come across that makes up a DNVB brand, which is a digital native vertical brand. So
Mhm.
I think we'll just go one by one, and I think Kaviraj is here to tell us how all these factors are making up Pomelo. So the first one, what I have researched is, for to be a DNVB brand, you need to have your own supply of materials, because this textile has a large value chain. So it's very important to have your own supply, because you are not only a brand who are selling, you are a brand that is producing as well. So
Yeah,
your whole presence implies that you are not only selling and marketing, you are also doing the production and you are making your own garments. So how far is that right for Pomelo, Kaviraj?
yeah. So exactly, yeah. So like you were talking about the concept of this DNVB, and
Yeah.
yeah, Pomelo is exactly like is exactly that kind of a company. Like most of the fashion companies that you see now, most of the traditional fashion companies that you see now starts with a retail store, right? And
Mm,
now in the past 2 3 years, you see a lot of them moving online, right? And a lot of that digital transformation is actually being driven because of COVID, right? But
mm,
but Pomelo was lucky that they've been that that we've been in the like that we started online long ago, right? It's been like seven years since Pomelo started. So
yeah.
it's lucky, right? So we are basically start online first and then offline, right? So we
Mm,
started the online store like 7 years ago, but the founders, and then right now, like about 2 3 years ago, Pomelo also
mm,
started opening retail stores across
right.
Southeast Asia. So it's like a reverse thing. It's like a reverse to compare to traditional brands. And yeah, so Pomelo also has its own supply chain where
Yeah.
all the products are being produced in house and designed in house, and yeah, everything is being done in house.
Yeah.
Vertically, it's all vertically integrated.
Yeah. So I think the large part of having your own supply material is you have your control over your own inventory and production. And I think that is a huge value addition to Pomelo, as much as I've researched, is based on their targets. They have about 150 collections a year. And I think that makes up for about three new collections a week. And is that right?
Yeah, it's around that much. Like basically every week there's a few collections that are being released. So
Hmm.
it's pretty frequent. It's a basic fast fashion company.
Right, right, right. So that's what surprised me is because not because nowadays to be an brand that's set up on the internet, anyone can just set up an Instagram account or have their products listed on Amazon and start selling to consumers. But that's not the thing. If you are being your own producer and handling your own inventory, that's when you are in the first step of being a DNVB brand. And along with this production, I think since you are producing yourself, the next step is obviously how you control the experience of the consumer. So consumer, in the sense, what I understand is the possibility of what the consumer is going to receive, you know. So how, suppose if Pomelo has its own garment and they are selling it to a consumer, so if any potential for defects, or any type of corrections that's being that's required, Pomelo has the control over that, of how they want to market their products and how they want to generate the user data from their means of selling. So tell me
Exactly.
about, like, Pomelo, how is the user experience of, if somebody is to shop from Pomelo, how is it set up?
Yeah. So, like as you said, right? So it's different from an Instagram brand, right? Because
Mm,
what you see of like people selling on like selling clothes on Instagram, they have their own shop. They they don't design their own clothes, right? They usually source it from somewhere, and then they usually sell it on Instagram, right? Whereas if you compare that with Pomelo, Pomelo has its own app, right? It's an own app that sells its own brand, right?
mm,
So that way, of course, it can decide that what products it wants to design. It can analyze data. It can see that what consumers are buying more, which kinds of styles consumers are buying less, and then
mm,
based on the data, they can like uh, yeah, they can plan their designs based on these things, right? So they basically have
mm,
access to all the data, to access to all the way of what the consumer is going to buy, right? So it's
right.
yeah, basically the whole experience.
Yeah, it's good because when they have their own setup, they can track their own consumers. Because unlike, if you are selling on Amazon, or suppose in India, if you're selling on Amazon, or you're selling on Mintra, uh, or Flipkart, whatever, or Geo, there's so many platforms where you can sell, but it's very hard to track your consumer data from there. And that, I think, is a huge there's a huge differentiation that comes in, because then that does not make you a DNVB brand, because you are not generating the consumer data on your own terms. It's being outsourced. But that's not the case with Pomelo, which I understand from you. You have, because you said the Pomelo has its own app, so they are
Yeah,
generating its own user data, and they are trying to uh, provide better services from there. And
exactly.
on the topic of app and being available online, the next part that comes is the distribution channel.
Mhm.
And nowadays, uh, having being set up online, the biggest a huge challenge nowadays is the fulfillment. Because how Amazon can fulfill the orders in 24 hours in US, but when it comes to India, it has Amazon Prime, which is also kind of like, it promises like 24 hours, which is the whole idea of Amazon Prime. But in India, it gets slightly delayed by like a day or two. But
Yeah.
if you compare that to other, uh, how to say, other platform that are also providing fulfillment services, so they are always going to be late, and it's very hard for them to manage fulfillment. So how is the
Mhm.
fulfillment in Pomelo, that they have their own brand and website? How is it being done?
Yeah, so like basically, Pomelo has its own fulfillment centers, right? Be it whichever country that you're selling it to,
Hmm.
and of course, it's like Amazon has these things where they sell it like in like same day delivery and 1 day delivery.
Right.
So it's not quite there yet, but
Hmm.
basically everything is in their control, right? Like if you want to change stuff, if you feel that there's something wrong anywhere in the fulfillment, or if you feel like something else needs to be optimized, because everything is being done in house, it's
Right.
easier to get the data and understand that what's the problem, how to save cost. You're basically
Hmm.
saving a lot of cost, right? Doing everything in house, right? Like you're not paying commission to
Yeah.
any other companies to deliver for you. Everything is being done yourself. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of way to improve and optimize this. Although it's not as efficient as like if you were in doing it with Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Because that obviously gives you the benefit of being local. Because if you have your own fulfillments in the region that you provide to cater, that you plan to cater, so obviously having your own fulfillment works. And And I think making a comparison with Amazon will be slightly unfair because Pomelo is still considered like a startup, like how in the startup world, how you call it, like a unicorn. It's a unicorn that grew
Right.
that grew out of the whole startup world, and it's actually like a company that's standing on its own. So comparing that to Amazon, I think it's slightly unfair, but in today's date where fulfillment is very important because people, like being a consumer, they want their stuff delivered. you know Suppose if a
Yes.
consumer wants to go to a party and they want it over, like they want the garments within a day or two, it's very hard to beat otherwise. So
Yeah.
also that's also a major part of being a DNVB brand, that you have your own distribution method. And I think the fourth aspect of what makes a brand a DNVB brand is the consumer engagement. And consumer engagement is not uh, like it's not like advertising on social media and sending them to an Amazon link, or advertising somewhere and then sending them to a different link where you are selling somewhere else. Nothing like that. Where you see an ad and you click to it, you land on their website. So how is the marketing done in Pomelo, Kaviraj? What do you think? Like, how
Yeah.
is
So
consumer engagement generated?
there's Pomelo has its own online marketing, performance marketing team, you could say, that generate ads, that basically sends email notifications, push notifications, etc.
Right.
And again, like having all this stuff in house gives you the ability to personalize this data, right? And this is
Yeah.
where also a lot of data collection is being used, because like the more data that you have and the more you are in control of what you are sending. Okay, for example, a lot of companies hire agencies, right, to
Right.
do this performance marketing and online marketing, where they're like,
Yeah. Digital marketing
where
firms are there. Yeah.
yeah, digital marketing firms, exactly. But when you're doing everything in house, of course, you have much higher control, right?
Hmm.
In combination of having your own data and your about your consumers, and having all the historical data, plus the flexibility to do whatever you like, right,
Right.
without paying like higher fees or anything like that.
Hmm.
It really puts you in a very good position to market whatever you like and whenever you like, right? Like whatever campaigns are there, whatever discounts you want to give, it's really flexible, and it's really like, yeah,
Yeah.
it can be personalized to the customers really well.
Right, right. That's good because
Yeah.
whenever they come across any new service of Pomelo and they click through the link, so it will take them either to the app or the website where they can do the direct purchase. So I think that is
Yes.
one big factor of being a DNVB brand, is that you are not being redirected from somewhere else to another platform where you can buy it. Like how you have Instagram links that send you to in Amazon. So that's
Yes.
that's not how you do it. That's going to be that will be considered as a direct to consumer brand, D2C.
Yes.
It
Yes.
will not be
Yeah.
a DNVB brand. Am I right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's also about the brand perspective, right? Because like if like, for example, if you're selling something and then you go to if you're selling some clothes, right? And you're basically advertising those to people. Basically advertising these to people, right?
Right.
And if they click on these links and they go to Lazada, right? Okay, yeah, it's fine. It's like I can buy it anyway. But if
Hmm.
you're sending if you're sending a link for your brand and then it actually links to your own website and stuff like that, of course, there's like a higher brand value, right? The
Hmm.
customer sees that, okay, this brand is actually a real, like it's a real deal. It has its own
Right.
website, it has its own brand, it has its own platform. So of course you feel like there's a higher trust, right? Because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
that this is its own brand.
Yeah.
It's not just another seller that is selling on
Yeah.
Lazada or Instagram, which they are like, nowadays is like almost everyone is doing this,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot more power here.
Because the word digital native vertical brand, like the first two words are digital native, because the more traditional form of setting a clothing brand is usually you have a pop-up exhibitions, or sometimes you have your own flagship stores, and then you try to set up events and bring the consumer attention
Yeah.
through offline methods, and then translate those to a regular consumer who will start to buy from their online platform once the confidence is built. but that's
Yeah.
not, they are starting from an online platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, like to summarize the four factors that we discussed is what, like one, Pomelo, like what I understand from you is Pomelo has its own supply. They control
Mhm.
the experience is
Yes.
by that is whatever is being sent to the consumer. The third is fulfillment center or distribution, and the fourth one is consumer engagement. How consumers are uh, sent the updates and how things are being advertised to them. So I think
Yeah.
these four fit right to Pomelo, and that's what makes it a DNVB brand. So I think
Yes.
one, yeah, and the and yeah, that being a DNVB brand, and on the point of being digitally native, I think
Mhm.
the where this leads to, or when people think about a business that's set up, on a digital standpoint, you cannot miss artificial intelligence. Okay,
Mhm.
and artificial intelligence is if we really get back to the basic, it's just an assistant, like how you have, like how for a consumer you can just have uh, Google Assistant, or you have Alexa and stuff like that. So that's what artificial does for a business. If
Yeah.
you like, businesses have their own intelligence that they can generate so much more
Yeah.
information by collecting data, which I think we'll get into. So
Yeah.
what do you think about artificial intelligence in regards to being a digital native brand?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most interesting thing, like for an e-commerce, for an online industry for me, because basically this is what my job is, right?
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
but basically, like, artificial intelligence is a very strong word to use, right? Like when you talk about artificial intelligence, people, like, the first thing people think of is robots, right?
Right,
And
right.
yeah, but a field in artificial intelligence, which is called machine learning, right,
Mm.
is something that is more tailored to businesses, and
Oh,
something
yeah.
that can be practically used for businesses, right? So basically, what what it is basically that when you're online, right, when you are digitally native, when you are on the internet, you have the ability to collect data, right? A
Mm.
lot of data, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this basically gives you the ability to use machine learning in order to solve your business needs. And machine learning can do a lot of complex stuff that can really, like, optimize your revenues and optimize your costs. And it's something that is being used for the past many years. Like a lot of the
Mm.
nearly every e-commerce industry is making use of machine learning right now.
Right.
Google and Facebook and basically all the big data companies, right? They were the
Mm.
first ones, basically, like, you really utilize machine learning to the max and reach its massive full potential. And now
Right.
you see that a lot of e-commerce companies are also using it. And the
Mm.
interesting thing now is it's also being used on fashion platforms, which is
Mm.
something
Right.
that it's relatively very, very new, right? Because,
Yeah.
like, fashion is a very new genre in the e-commerce industry, right? Because, like,
Right.
it's really odd for people to, like, buy clothes online.
Mm.
Like, for myself, it's impossible to do that. Like, I literally cannot buy clothes online, right? And,
Yeah.
even
Fair.
though I'm working in a company that is basically doing this as its main business,
Mm.
but for me, I find it really hard to buy stuff online. I have to try this stuff and all that.
Right.
So this fashion in the e-commerce industry is really, like, changing the game, and machine learning with fashion is
Yeah.
is something that is really interesting.
Right. So what I understand is like how we were talking about the four factors of a DNVB brand, and you
Mhm.
mentioned that Pomelo has its own app where it's collecting a lot of data of the user, how user interacts and how they like of like whatever they do on the website is all being tracked. So obviously it's for a human brain to process all that all that data, because it's been collected every second, every minute, based on how
Yeah,
many users they have. So to collect all that data manually is obviously impossible. So that's where
yeah,
machine learning comes in and gives a structure to all that information.
yes,
Is that
exactly,
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So basically, like, if you think about it, right, machine
How's it done
learning
in
is basically,
Pomelo? Like this machine learning aspect?
so it's used for a variety of stuff, right? So like there's inventory management, personalization, and stuff like that, which is like
Mm.
it's also being used in a lot of stuff. So like inventory management, demand forecasting is something that is a really interesting thing, right?
Well,
That something that I'm working on as well. And
okay.
it's basically like basically just forecasting of what you want to buy. Basically predicting that how much of each style that you need to buy, right?
Mm.
And and if you think about it, this is something that is really challenging, especially in a fast fashion company compared to like in a traditional grocery store, or maybe
Well.
even like or maybe even electronic companies like maybe Apple, right? So for example,
Mm.
right, if you were in a grocery store and let's say that you wanted to predict how much inventory you want to buy, right? You basically want to optimize your inventory. You don't want to over
Yeah.
order. You don't want to under order. You
Fair.
want it to
Yeah.
be
There's a lot of
right.
fixed cost that comes with it otherwise. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's say that you were a grocery store and you were trying to predict that how much apple you want to buy or how many oranges you want to buy.
Mm.
So basically, you basically like you can develop a machine learning algorithm to basically analyze the historical data. You can add various features there, and basically you want to predict that what to do here. But
Mm.
now imagine that in a fast fashion company, right? What's happening is that every week there's a lot of styles. There's so many styles being released that has never been on the market before. It's
Yeah.
basically brand new to in the consumer's eyes.
Right.
So it gets really complex to build a model to be able to predict these kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? You basically need a lot of data. You need a lot of uh, good quality data, good feature collection in order to make accurate predictions of
Yeah,
what you want
because
to do.
like since Pomelo has like has a target of having 3 collections like every week. So obviously every collection is not 1 or 2 garments. It's going to be like at least 15 to 20 of them. So if you add up the whole week, it takes you around like 60 garments. And and
Exactly.
all those 60 garments makes are their own individual data points. So how many people are choosing each outfit, what kind of sizes they are using and all. So it's you cannot just keep a record like how it's used like in a book. It's impossible.
Yes.
That's so that's where I think machine learning is it is the unique selling point for Pomelo. And
Yeah.
because if I come like as you're talking about machine learning, I'm trying to reflect of how business used to be done like in a very traditional manner before. So because these are very digital native brands, that's why they are generating their own data, and they can analyze their own information and their own performance and their way they are interacting with consumers. But in a very traditional sense, what people usually use, suppose if I am a business, or you are somebody who are selling on Instagram, your data point will be how much you sold from the previous year, because you are going to
Mhm.
use that uh, as your benchmark, and see how well you're performing this year based on how much you did last year. But in a but that is very wrong, because these small businesses, they don't have enough data. But even if they do have data, they don't know how to analyze it, because obviously
Yeah.
you can't do it manually. So for a
Yeah.
Pomelo trying to tackle that as a fast fashion brand with uh, so many garments coming in, I think
Mhm.
if not artificial intelligence, that's the only reason that you can digitalize or you can make an e-commerce out of fast fashion, because that's going to speed up and put everything in line with all those new designs, because it's a turnover game. So if
Yeah.
you don't keep that in line, you can't streamline the whole process. It's very hard to
Yeah.
be a fast fashion brand. So I think
Yeah.
that's where Pomelo is excelling with this artificial intelligence. And also, like
Yeah.
when I was doing this research on Pomelo, I also came across a similar brand in the US. And
Mhm.
there's a brand called Stitch Fix. Have you
Yeah.
heard about it?
Yes. Yes. I have. It's a very data driven brand.
Yeah. So what I figured out is it is also a DNVB brand, and it had a very similar model as a Pomelo. But obviously,
Yeah.
Stitch Fix has been in the game for a very long time, and it's a big player now. In fact,
Yeah.
it's listed in a stock market. So I think
Mhm.
a fast fashion brand being in a stock market is already a huge achievement. It's already out of the competition. So for Pomelo to be on the same line, and I think they have so much inspiration to work with, that I think Pomelo has a very uh, has a very good growth potential based on the regions that they are operating in, because it's
Yeah.
Stitch Fix is doing in the US, and they are working with men's, women, and kid
Yeah.
garments, and along with that they also have accessories and shoes and stuff. So I think they that kind of like, just for me to like try to understand how much information that is, it just
Yeah.
makes me crazy. Like, I don't want to start. So obviously artificial intelligence is the only way out.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. So like the advantage of having this kind of like of this stuff, like Stitch Fix, for example, like why they
Right.
can do what they do is just because like having a lot of data is not enough.
Mm,
Of course, like there's so many companies that have a ton of data, right?
fair.
But if you don't have the tools to be able to make use of that data is
Mm,
useless, right?
right.
And like and right now, because this field is growing so much, the field of machine learning is growing so much, you basically want to try to utilize it in every industry that's possible. If you have data, you need to get machine learning to like to basically make use of that data, because data is something that is becoming really powerful. Like
Right.
literally, like all the big data companies like Facebook, Google, and all, their main asset is their data, right?
Mm,
And like just by hearing this, you can imagine that how strong data is, right? Like once you
yeah.
basically what you can do is like what has been what has been happening in the past few years for every company, fashion companies, retail companies, like what's happening is that when you're selling something, you basically
Right.
have one price for everyone. You have one price for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And then you basically have, and if you want to have a discount, you have the same discount for everyone.
Mm,
And if you want to market something, you're marketing it on a billboard, you're marketing it on a car, you're
yeah.
marketing it on emails, right? And basically, it's the same marketing for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But
One size fits all kind of thing.
yes, but if you have access, if you are able to use machine learning well with your data, you can basically personalize all this information to a different customer. You can
Mm,
basically, I can analyze what you are doing, right? I can see that what you are doing, what you like, and then basically send you ads based on that, send you a
mm.
discount based on that, right? So there's this huge concept about dynamic pricing as well, which airline industries use, which like
Yeah.
platforms like Agoda and all use, like
Mm,
if you go there, you see that the price is not always fixed. The price keeps changing, right? And
right.
this also depends on data, like on machine learning. Like they're basically
Mm,
analyzing the time of the day, depending on the competition, depending on the number of available rooms, etc., to be able to
right.
like dynamically change their price in order to get optimized revenues. And
Mm,
this and having this for a fashion company is really interesting, right? And
right.
not only a fashion company, this like okay, for a fashion company, because a lot of fashion companies right now are basically going omni-channel, right? They have
Right.
online stores and they have
Offline
sorry,
stores.
they
Yeah.
have online stores and they have offline stores, right?
Mm,
And on online stores is really easy to have a dynamic pricing. You can basically change the price all the time on online.
right.
But for offline, to change the price that often is not
Mm.
really that easy, right? You have to have staff that is like basically coming to change the signs all the
Yeah, you
time.
can't change a price tag in a showroom.
Yes, I read about this technology, right? It's called electronic shelves, right? Like a lot of some companies are already using it, but basically it's like a shelf that it's like a digital shelf, and the
Mm.
prices there are linked to a database. So the price can
Okay.
literally get updated all the time, along with the discounts, right? So
Oh,
if you
like a
have these
stock
things,
market. Right.
yeah, yeah. So if you have these things in combination, it gets really interesting, right? Because you can perform
Mm.
the same pricing for both online and offline, and
Yeah.
basically personalize it to the customers in both your channels. So it's something that is really really interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting because you can then transfer uh this whole machine learning aspect to not being only a digital thing, but you can also put it in the showrooms when it like becomes
Exactly.
like, like a typical brick and mortar store. It can also be part of, like, it can be embraced as part of a user experience and stuff like that.
Yes,
So it's
exactly.
machine learning, obviously, I think is the future, and I think Stitch Fix has done it really well by giving
Yeah,
so many options, because as you mentioned, personalizing. So even
yeah,
Stitch Fix has this option of giving giving style consultancy, something
Yes.
of some sort, where based on how you interact with the website, it will give you suggestions,
Yes.
like how you search for, like how you use YouTube. The more keywords that you put in, the better videos YouTube is trying to suggest you. But maybe
Yeah.
not till that extent. But for a clothing, when you're trying to look for something and based on the images you're trying to check out, the machine learns what you're looking for and trying to suggest you better things. So it kind of creates a better funnel to get the purchase done rather than just browsing. So I think it
Yes.
it it provides a solution rather than just being being a facility, something like that.
Yeah, of
So
course. Like
yeah.
it has to have a business value in order to really invest in it, right? Like if you invest in it, but it doesn't have a business value, then of course it's no use. You
This
want
is
to
not
increase that
digital anymore.
yeah. You want to increase that conversion rate on your website and on your app and everything. Yeah.
Mm. Right. So on like how we mentioned about like data being so important and artificial learning, all these. So I'm guessing there is some form of algorithm to machine learning. So you being a data scientist, you are working with data, you are trying to analyze that's your day-to-day thing. So when it comes to data collection for these algorithm, can you just mention, like, give some idea of what kind of, like, what are these data points, or what is the information that the algorithm needs to like work better, or like what kind of things is it tracking, like what does it look for, like if a consumer is trying to like they like I'm asking this for so the people who are listening, who are consumers, they will have an idea of what actually goes on in, like, behind the app or behind a website.
Yeah. So basically it's like, okay, imagine that you were going in an offline store. Okay, so I'll talk about an example for a general offline store first, and then I'll move to online. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
let's say that you were in an you go to a normal store in a mall, right?
Hmm.
Basically, what people are doing is, like, the people that design the stores, what the way they design the stores is basically they want you to cover every aspect of the store, right?
Yeah.
That's like, when people design, like, they want to optimize the design of stores. They're basically trying to create these these aisles such that you basically look at every product, the way you enter, where you enter. Basically, what they're trying to capture is they want to capture your user journey. They want to see
Right.
where you enter. Do you turn left or do you turn right? Right. And then
Yeah.
based on that, you can come up with better designs in their new store. So
Hmm.
okay, so this is for an offline store, right? But
Yeah.
on an online platform, it's a lot easier to track this, right? It's a lot easier to
Hmm.
see that, okay, when your user comes into the website, which where does the user want to go next? Where does the user go next? Does he go to the first page, or does he go to the other option, or does he go to the categories, right?
Hmm.
So basically, once you have all this data, right, when you can really capture all this, when you can capture the user journey, you can basically design the app better. You can design the app better to make the customer where you want them to go, right? Because
Oh,
you
yeah.
want them to go to a place where they're going to generate the higher revenue, the
Hmm.
highest revenue for the company. You want them to go to a place where they're going to see the best styles that suits them, right?
Yeah.
Or that actually makes them go to the checkout store. That
Hmm.
that actually makes them, like, pay, like, basically go to the checkout and then actually pay. So basically,
Hmm.
you want the data points of all these points. So whenever a customer is clicking something, you want, like, a data point is generated and a
Hmm.
data point is stored, right? And
Yeah.
then basically we can go back and then analyze this data. And not
Hmm.
only the customer data, there's also a lot of other supply chain data that you can collect, that, like,
Okay.
what factories are you working with, and basically what design your clothes are. You want to basically, like, have a deep tagging of your clothes, right? Like,
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you are a fashion company, like, if you're a fashion company as a whole, right? Like, if I tell you that, okay, how many shirts that I want to buy, that doesn't really make sense, because me and you right now are wearing the same shirt, right?
Yeah.
But our shirt, if yeah, but you see, our shirt is okay. And if you say that, okay, a collared shirt, both of us are collared shirt, right? But that
Right.
doesn't personalize the shirt. You want to go in
Hmm.
details. You want to say that your shirt is printed, it has spots on it. My shirt is plain, yours is
Yeah.
white, mine is blue. Stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
So you want to collect data to the point where you can differentiate a product to to the max, right? And that's
Mm,
the way that you can really understand the behavior of that product. You can understand
mm.
how well that product works,
How
right?
far the road
So
is going. Yeah.
yeah, and this is true for every product, not only in fashion, right? Like even if you are, yeah, basically, like even if you are, okay, let's say that you in Lazada and you are basically analyzing products. You want to get to the max feature of that product. You want to obtain as many features of that product to understand the sales of it, right? And
Right,
then you
right,
can
right.
come up with, and then from there you can come up with better decisions of what product you want to sell, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like how grocery stores are organized based on the type of product that they know the consumer will go to. So like the most needed stuff, like you can say a store like a grocery store like 7-Eleven or whatever, they usually have water and the essential item like towards the end because they want the consumer to go through the whole thing and want to make
Yeah,
sure that everything gets their attention before they go. It's like organizing the product, but that's like an offline because you can't do it any other way. So yeah,
yeah,
so like in terms of data collection, that's a data collection in the offline way where there are people who are studying the consumer behaviors of where
yeah,
people are walking, what they're checking out. So I think it's to like how these stores, grocery stores, how they try to reorganize every time, or
mm-hmm.
like malls, they also try to reorganize like the whole plan based on where consumer is going to walk on different floors, I think. And I think the same logic is needed for an online, like at an online platform like the app or the website, because that
Yeah,
that creates a better relevance for a consumer when they are looking for something. And
yeah,
and that's how you build like I think it'd be brand loyalty when it comes to like, I was like, yeah, if I want to buy something, I know like if I just do few clicks it will show up on Pomelo
yeah.
on the app.
It's like basically having a shopping assistant, right?
Ah,
Like when
yeah.
you're in a store, you have people that come to you and you're like, oh, like you're wearing this, you might like this, you might like that, right? And
Right.
basically, like depending on what you're browsing, like let's say that you were browsing a certain shirt, right? And the assistant can come and tell you that, okay, you know what, you're looking at this shirt, there's something similar on that aisle, right?
Right.
But when you're on the online platform, and if you have a good recommendation engine, right, that thing can become your shopping assistant, right? You can
Right.
basically look at the app. So whatever clothes that you're looking at, they can basically give you similar products. That what is it
Right.
that you? But again, to make all this happen really effectively, you want to get as many deep tagging data as you get. You really have to be able to differentiate the clothing, and that's a tough part for anything. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. Like there's some companies that are like specialized in doing image processing for for uh, for clothing, like for clothes, right? Like they basically design algorithms that can basically capture exactly like is it half sleeve, short sleeve, what kind of collar you have, what kind of prints you have.
Oh, they
So
or they scan like your actual garment, or like how is it?
they can scan a picture. So like you send them pictures
Oh,
of your
okay,
garment.
okay.
Like, you can send them like the flat lace images or like on the models or whatever, and they
Mm.
basically scan that and they basically get all the tags of that product. So
Yeah.
it's also a very interesting thing that they do. And
Mm.
of course it's like it's not easy to do all this, and it's not the most effective yet as of now.
I think
But
that's like a
like,
far-fetched reality to, to have that kind of need. Like as of now, I think people are good with online shopping and, having fast deliveries. So I think maybe that might be like more of a potential thing where things could go next,
yeah,
bringing
it
like not like having like artificial intelligence as like uh,
yeah,
a business asset, but also
yeah,
transferring all that benefit and efficiency to like consumer shopping also.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's,
Actually, like that technology can really be useful for one thing that like whenever like if I go see some stuff online, or if I see some shirt online, right, I like the shirt but I'm always scared to buy it, right, because
mm,
I don't know if it's going to fit me. But this if you really have this image processing that works well, and then you also have other kinds of like machine learning models and AI that works well,
right.
you can have a really good like augmented reality. Have you heard of
Mm,
that augmented
yeah,
reality?
yeah, yeah.
Like basically you basically point the camera to yourself, and then it
Mm,
basically shows you that how that shirt will fit your body.
Yeah, I
right?
think, yeah, like how
And
there are
that,
AR games in like
yes,
for iPhone also, where you can just have, like I've seen like
Pokemon Go.
you yeah, like how like if I'm not wrong, like during the launch of some iPhone, they also showed how like you can play a whole game like in your room, like through the
Yeah,
screen, something like
yeah,
that. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
so having like a
Actually,
shopping experience through that, oh man, that's wow.
actually, IKEA is already making use of this technology. I'm not sure how well they've been using it, but I read
Mm,
an article like a few months ago where like where IKEA has this feature for its furniture, right? So like for
mm,
example, if you wanted to buy a sofa there, all you and like they'll give you the size of the sofa, right?
yeah.
But it you can't really comprehend that how does it fit your living room. So all
Mm,
you do is you basically click on that sofa and you point to the part of the room where you want to place that sofa, and then
yeah.
it shows you how the sofa will fit there and what size the sofa is.
Right.
So but of course this technology is still at its pioneering stage, right? Especially in these kind of businesses. But
Yeah.
if it works well in a few years, I think it'll be a really useful thing.
Right. Imagine all that data being collected for that.
Yeah,
You never
yeah,
know, because there are some issues of privacy where you don't want like people to track. I think that's another episode of
of
like
course,
this
yeah.
whole tracking. But
That's,
I think Pomelo has a really good future. What's your take on Pomelo? Where do you think it's going?
I think it's great. Like I've been here, like I've been in the company for like 2 years, and I've seen it grow so much. And for
Mm,
sure, in the next few years, like it's one of the few like really data driven companies
mm,
in in Southeast Asia, I would say. Like, it's not easy, especially for a fashion company, right? Like you have these traditional like Central and other brands that are there, and most of them are like offline brands. But now every
mm.
brand is moving online. But Pomelo was lucky that Pomelo started off as an online brand, so
Yeah,
it kind of has this competitive edge, right?
yeah. It's ahead
And
of the
because it
curve.
has, yes,
Yeah.
and it has more data compared to its competitors. It was the pioneer, so because of that, it's in a really good position, right? And hopefully
Mm.
after the pandemic the pandemic reduces and people start going out more, like it will have the potential to grow even faster.
No, I think
Yeah.
we have to give credit to COVID for Pomelo's success to some extent because of things going online.
I'm not
No,
sure about that. Like,
that's a very dark joke.
I'm not sure about that because like I don't think the fashion industry was like I'm sure the fashion industry didn't have a positive impact because like people are not going out. Like why will people be
That's
walking
also
out
fair. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
if
also
like
fair.
some kinds of clothing, like like activewear, people started like exercising more, or like
Mm.
homeware, like these
Yeah, night
categories
suit and stuff. Yeah,
might
these
have
things.
sold more.
Mm.
But overall, in general, I don't think it was a positive impact.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I think on that point, I think we had a very good discussion of how Pomelo works and how it is successfully being a DNVB, like digital native vertical brand, and how it's being set up and where it's planned to go with machine learning and data collection. So, thank you, Kavirat, for giving all your insights. Very glad that you did this podcast with me and gave all your insights and told us how machine learning works in Pomelo and how a tech company, being like a fashion company that is a tech company, is thriving in such a model. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for the episode.
Thank you very much for having me as well, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. All right, that'll be the end of this episode, and I hope to see you in the next time. Bye.
And